Hello, I'm Claire and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be about happy fragrances. So there are certain fragrances in my collection that just instantaneously make me feel happier. And it's usually ones where they make me think of certain things in my past, or they remind me of people or events, or sometimes remind me of things that I really enjoy. So I'm just going to talk through 10 of my happiest fragrances, and I'm sure my happy fragrances are going to be completely different to everybody else's, but I'd really be interested to know what are your happy fragrances and what makes you happy about them. What is it about that fragrance that gives you that feeling? So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith. I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume history, perfume psychology, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews and also fun perfume tags. So if that kind of thing interests you, then please consider subscribing if you haven't done already, and also please like this video if you do like this kind of content. So I think I'm going to make this into a tag because I think this really lends itself to being a tag. So anybody who's watching this, if you want to go ahead and make a video about your 10 happy fragrances and why they're your happy fragrances, I'd love to watch it. So let's get on with this. These are my 10 happy fragrances. So the first fragrance I'm choosing because it makes me feel comforted, and I think comfort is a form of contentment, which is in turn a form of happiness. So this fragrance is Jorum Studio's Unspoken Gesture. And this one I think makes me feel comforted because it's something that feels quite sensual, but it's a non-sexy kind of sensual. This one opens with a load of cardamom, and it's a cool feeling cardamom, but it really is very quickly overtaken by a nutty feeling musky ambrette. But there's also a lot of texture from some mimosa here, so you get a kind of polleny sweetness to this as well. This fragrance really moves through quite a few transitions and it turns almost milky. It also has that kind of aroma that you get with basmati rice before it's been cooked. It's a really perplexing fragrance, this one, and as it dries down, you get more of the cardamom coming back into the fragrance, so the cardamom really begins to amp up as it goes along. I find this one to be really long lasting, and I think that's another part of the contentment and comfort of this fragrance, and it's something that I just can't stop sniffing because it's so fascinating, and it's something that's quite enveloping as well because of the skin-like notes and just the kind of scent bubble that you get with this fragrance. It feels like you're being hugged while you wear it. So that's Unspoken Gesture by Jorum Studio. So the next fragrance I'm choosing for summertime, for sunshine, and just for those carefree days where perhaps you've gone for a picnic somewhere and you know that feeling when you've eaten and the sunshine is warm on your face and you lay back on the picnic blanket and just sort of fall asleep. That's the kind of feeling I get from this fragrance. This fragrance actually also makes me think of wearing cotton summer dresses. It just has that kind of summertime feel to it. So this one is Jasmin des Anges. And this is a honeyed, sweet, light, airy jasmine fragrance, but with a lot of fruitiness. So it's got a really strong presence of apricot here, but then also some kind of muskiness into the dry down. I think this fragrance is just a stunner. I think this one is the perfect ethereal feeling summer fragrance. It just feels so light, so airy, but also just so much like warm sunshine, really. I think this one is just gorgeous, and I like it because it's casual, but it also feels sophisticated. So that's Jasmin des Anges by Christian Dior. So the next fragrance I'm choosing for nostalgia reasons. So I think this fragrance, the first time I smelt it, it just took me back 25 years. It took me back to the first time that I smelt this smell. So this one is Lush's 29 High Street. And if you know Lush fragrances, they are larger than life. There's nothing delicate about a Lush fragrance, and this is no exception. So this one is a really bright explosion of citrus smells in the beginning. It's green, it's yellow, it's lemon, it's lime, and it feels jewel-toned almost in how it smells. This also has some very bright feeling florals in it, so those florals feel like almost fruitier versions of themselves. So it's got some jasmine, it's got some ylang-ylang, but it just has this texture to it as well in the dry down. It literally smells like you're putting a bath bomb under some hot running water and you're having a nice bath with your bath bomb. This is really the smell of the Lush shop, but not the smell of the Lush shop necessarily so much nowadays, more like it smelled 20-25 years ago. I think still actually, when you walk down the street, you can smell the Lush shop from a while away. I think Lush's fragrances have changed slightly into a more kind of gourmand direction in some respects, but back in the day they were very much based around more essential oils and more natural kind of smells. And I think this fragrance takes me back to those origins of the Lush shop. So yeah, Lush's 29 High Street is my nostalgic fragrance. So the next fragrance I'm choosing for holidays, and really what makes people happier than being on holiday. For me, I think my best holidays have been along the Mediterranean coast. So I remember one in particular when I went to Sardinia and we ate our breakfast outside the hotel on a little patioed area, and there was a fig tree growing over this patioed area, and I could smell the fig leaves as I was eating my breakfast. And smelling this fragrance just takes me back to that moment. So this one is Alluring Fig by Theodoros Kalotinis. So this fragrance is a green, sappy feeling fig fragrance with a lot of vanilla. It's really more about fig leaves than it is about the actual fig fruits. I'd say this is definitely on the greener side of fig. It's quite sappy, and I think if you don't like green vanillas, this one won't be for you. But I really do feel like Theodoros Kalotinis fragrances, the best releases were the first releases, and this is one of the first releases from the brand. So this is Alluring Fig by Theodoros Kalotinis. So the next fragrance I'm choosing for friendship, and the one I'm going to choose for friendship, is Maison Margiela's Replica's Bubble Bath. So Em actually sent me the original sample I had of this fragrance, and she had a bottle. And she also sent me a 10ml travel spray of this fragrance from her own bottle. And, that was incredibly kind. And Em is someone I've never ever met. We've only talked online, but I met her through doing YouTube. But, she watched one of my YouTube videos. We got chatting on Instagram. Now I chat with her pretty much every day. And I really just think that's amazing. I think that's really been a gift of YouTube, that I've actually developed lots of friendships with people that I've essentially never met. And that's something that's really been a surprise to me. So the reason she gave me this one is because I made a review video of all the Maison Margiela fragrances at the time, and this came out as my favourite. So this fragrance, I do just think it smells like a bubble bath. They couldn't have done this better. I think the aldehydes here make this a controversial fragrance, and I can see why some people wouldn't enjoy it. But I think this one also gives me a bit of a feeling of nostalgia. So there's a coconut soapiness in the far dry down that really makes me think of a Body Shop soap that I had when I was little. I think it was in the shape of a polar bear, this soap. I remember keeping it for years and not wanting to use it because it was in the shape of the polar bear. But this fragrance makes me think of that. So yeah, if you haven't tried this one, it's aldehydes, it's lavender, but it's also got this kind of coconut soapiness in the dry down. I think if you experienced matey bubble baths as a child as well, this will have a real tinge of nostalgia about it for you. But yeah, overall, this fragrance just makes me think of friendship, and it makes me think of all the people who've sent me samples and been so generous, and who watch my videos and who I chat with. I'm just really grateful. So yeah, Bubble Bath by Maison Margiela. So the next fragrance I'm choosing for baking. So before I was on YouTube, I used to do loads and loads of home baking. I used to really like making cakes. I used to like making biscuits, cookies, whatever I could find a new recipe for and try out. I just was always making different things. I used to make a lot of millionaire shortbread as well. I haven't made those for ages. I just don't have the time with YouTube right now, but I would really like to get back to it. And I miss it in a way. And this fragrance just makes me think of baking, probably one of my favourite things to bake because they're so easy, and that's ginger biscuits. So this one is Lush's Chelsea Morning. So another fragrance from Lush, so definitely a larger than life kind of fragrance, something that is very strong, very in your face, very punchy. And this one is a gourmand fragrance. So this one opens with loads of lemon, but then it dries down into a maple syrup drizzled ginger biscuit. Caramelised, that kind of warm, just out of the oven kind of sugar feel to this. Just delicious. And yeah, just makes me hungry basically, this one, and makes me think of baking. So this one is Lush's Chelsea Morning. So the next fragrance I'm choosing for fruit. So I grew up on a farm and we had loads of different fruit trees. We had apples, we had pears, cherries, apricots, peaches, plums, and we also had blackcurrant bushes, and we had a friend down the road who would bring us strawberries, raspberries and blackberries. So it was always a fight to try and finish up all the fruits that we had or give them away to other people before they just went off. And this fragrance makes me think of just very ripe fruit. So this one is Mabelle Forbidden Bloom. So this fragrance is pear and also peach. And those two fruits in the beginning of this fragrance makes me think of a table laden with slightly overripe fruits, things that are very juicy, almost exploding with nectar and sweetness. And just it's very realistic, and I think that's what I love about this fragrance, the realism of the fruits. It's almost like, you know, when you see those kind of Renaissance paintings of those still lifes, it makes me think of that. So this also has some tropical feeling florals, it's got frangipani, and it dries down into this beautiful muskiness as well. I think the sample that I have is one of the early release samples, so I don't think this has as much of perhaps the coffee, which I think is more present in the extrait version that is sold now. But I actually really love my version, and I love the fruitiness of it, and I love that that's the thing that dominates on me. So yeah, Mabelle Arama's Forbidden Bloom for fruits. So my next choice is for being sure. I'm a very indecisive person. I really struggle making decisions sometimes, but sometimes those decisions are very clear cut for me, and this fragrance really was a very clear cut decision. So this one is Lilac Love, and it's by Amouage. So this is the most expensive fragrance I've ever bought, and I think I'm not a frivolous person. I'm not someone who, you know, spends crazy amounts of money on pretty much anything, but let alone fragrance. I'm someone who generally buys a lot secondhand, and I'm someone who is quite measured in, you know, I'll wait a long time to get a good deal basically. But this fragrance I just fell in love with. So I love this fragrance because it made me sure, it made me confident in my taste. It made me think that I knew what I wanted. And I think that's something that is reassuring, isn't it? When you've made a decision and you're happy with it, that's one of the best feelings in life. You don't want to look back on something, whatever it is, big or small, and think, oh no, I should have done this. That's just not a good feeling. So this fragrance is lilac, and it's a very distinctive type of lilac to me. It's something that smells rich and buttery, and it's sort of got a white chocolatiness to it, a powderiness as well. It's a very odd, very distinctive fragrance, and I can totally see why someone wouldn't love it. I wouldn't say this is love at first sniff for me, actually, this one. It took me a few goes of trying this before I got the dosage right. I think I went in a bit too heavy with this one, with the sprays, the first time I tried it from a sample. And I just found it overwhelming. It's a very strong fragrance, this one. This is a 1 or 2 spray fragrance for me. So yeah, I'm just choosing this one because it's something that made me sure of my taste, and it made me confident in my choices. So yes, Lilac Love is for being sure and knowing yourself. This next one I'm choosing for the delight of surprise. So this one is Fenty by Fenty, and this fragrance I got at Christmas, and it was a fragrance that I put off for so long trying. I just dismissed it. I'd heard about it on YouTube. People had said bad things about it when it was first released. There was a lot of hate. It just didn't get the hype that I think it probably deserved, actually. So a store assistant just said, would I like to try it? And she was so engaging that I just said yes. So I tried it, and it was really love at first sniff, and that's so rare with me. Normally it's something that I have to, you know, keep trying, and I have to really make sure. But this one I just bought after trying it just that one time. I went home and I bought it online pretty much that night. And this fragrance is the only fragrance that I've ever really done that with. And this fragrance, I think, has echoes of my signature fragrance in my 20s. It smells a little bit like a more grown-up version of Lola. So this fragrance has a really interesting fruitiness at the beginning, but really where it's at for me is the dry down. So the dry down is a dark feeling, slightly spicy, even earthy feeling rose. And it's almost a little bit truffly feeling, but there's also a really intense sweetness to this as well. And it's something I catch in the air. Even when spray, I can still smell this a day later on my skin. And I just find it intoxicating. There's something that just keeps me coming back to this fragrance and keeps me wanting to smell it. And this fragrance as well is the only fragrance that I had on a sample card as I came away from the store. And I ended up putting that sample card on my pillow as I slept that night because I just loved the smell so much and I wanted to fall asleep to it. So I'm choosing this one for the delight of surprises, and this is Fenty by Fenty. So my final choice in this video is going to be for being myself. And I think if you are yourself, you feel comfortable, you feel content, you feel happy. I think that's really one of the biggest messages that I learned throughout life from being in my teenage years and, you know, going to uni and whatever. You sort of try and project certain personalities sometimes, and it's always just easier to be yourself because, you know, you can't keep that up, can you? So this fragrance is La Petite Robe Noire Black Perfecto by Guerlain, and this fragrance I'm choosing just because it feels like me. This is me in a bottle, and I think it's the closest fragrance I've come to a signature scent through my 5 years of being on YouTube. And this one is one of the few fragrances in my collection that I do own a backup bottle for. Normally when I try fragrances, I think, you know, that's nice and I've enjoyed the bottle, but when I finish it, it's gone. And I'm not going to think about it again. I'm going to move on, I'm going to try new things. But this one, I don't think I'd ever move on from. This fragrance is up there with Lola, my signature fragrance of my 20s. I just think this fragrance feels like me in my 30s and 40s. And this is something I'm never going to say goodbye to if I can help it. So if you haven't tried this one, it's a powdered rose fragrance with some cherry and also a leathery touch to it as well, and a nice musky dry down. And this fragrance really made me discover leather and suede in fragrances as well. It really wasn't something that was on my radar at all before starting my YouTube channel and watching fragrance content. And really YouTube helped me to discover that I absolutely love leather and suede in fragrances. And it's something you don't really think about, is it, until you go down that rabbit hole of getting into fragrance, and then you start to analyse all the things you like and what it is about those fragrances that just appeals to you. So this one is me in the bottle, and that's why I'm choosing it. For being me, that's La Petite Robe Noire Black Perfecto by Guerlain. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed the video, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please let me know which are your happy fragrances and why. I'd love to know. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.